FBI organizations in the history of the FBI.
President Trump is expected to announce Nikki Haley's replacement at any moment.
Heather Nauert is set to become the profile Trump nominee to face a Senate confirmation hearing since Brett Kavanaugh.
The debate surrounding birthright citizenship reigniting.
19-year-old Honduran Mariuri Hernandez crossed
spotted with a sign saying, look at that, thank you 41.
Silent night, no longer. A police officer unveiling his hidden talent and bringing down the house.
Welcome aboard, folks. It's Friday, December 7th, 2018. This is Fox and Friends. Thanks for joining us. You know, it's very exciting because 2 months ago when we came out with the cookbook, here at Fox News, we did this contest, opening it up, because the cookbook is all about our favorite, the foods that make us happy. We had a nationwide contest. Thousands of people entered, and today you will meet the first winner. This is a woman who became an American citizen, and every time she has this cake, it makes her happy. And her story is amazing, and she will be joining us live this hour.
To make the cake for us.
To make the cake, and
So
we will
there will be
take the
cake.
So how many winners do we have?
We have 3 winners. We're going to have a winner this week where they come into the studio, another next week, and then 2 weeks from yesterday.
You're going to their house?
I'm going to their house to make them breakfast, just as I did the day that they launched the Happy Cookbook, which is, as you know, a great stocking stuffer.
Does everyone who won know that they won? Or are you revealing another one next
You will
week?
discover a nugget of that information within the hour.
Quite the tease.
I like that.
Quite the tease.
So anyway.
Meanwhile, that's going to be great. I look forward to meeting them. They might be even here already. Let's talk about Robert Mueller and what's going on, because the president's tweeting about it, because the Mueller probe has 2 people getting some very important documents today and reveals it is going to be Michael Cohen as well as Paul Manafort. And here's what the president just tweeted.
He said Robert Mueller and Lincoln Lion James Comey are best friends. Just one of many Mueller conflicts of interest. And, by the way, wasn't the woman in charge of prosecuting Jerome Corsi, who I do not know, in charge of legal at the corrupt Clinton Foundation? A total witch hunt.
And the Clinton Foundation, by the way, is in the eye of the storm. We'll get to that at some point. But they are being looked at right now for their accounting practices.
Sure. And the president did 3 other tweets where he does talk about Rod Rosenstein, the conflicts of interest with Mr. Mueller, and whether or not they will look at the Clinton Foundation. Jason Chaffetz was with us about 45 minutes ago. These are some of the questions that he thinks the committees up on Capitol Hill should ask the former FBI director today behind closed doors.
Comey said there was an FBI, they didn't do sneaky things and they didn't do leaks. Yet we have an inspector general report that says they were doing a lot of sneaky stuff and they were doing a lot of leaking. So there'll be questions about that. You also have an FBI, the upper echelon, that's in chaos. How is it that Mr. Comey presided over one of the most inept FBI organizations in the history of the FBI? And why is it there was so much bias and animus that was going on there?
All right, today's a very important day for several reasons, because many say it could be this Mueller, this collusion investigation. The special counsel might be wrapping up their investigation based on what's going to happen. So today, James Comey, going behind closed doors, he's going to testify in front of the House Judiciary Committee. He tried to challenge that. He wanted to drop this. He wanted to speak out in public. But then the Republicans agreed to make the transcript public and said he could talk about it after they hear from him. There's some other things going on today, too, right,
Exactly.
Brian?
We're going to get 2 revealing court filings that hopefully won't be so redacted we don't know what they mean, like in many cases happened with General Michael Flynn. But the Cohen sentencing, the government's going to recommend what kind of sentence Michael Cohen will have after he's been cooperating at least 70 hours, we understand, with the Mueller probe, among other things. And Paul Manafort, we're going to get details on what went wrong with his plea deal that caused the government to pull it back and say he's lying.
Well, and in particular regarding Mr. Manafort, pictured right there, it should spell out some of the lies. You know, if they cratered on his his special deal with the prosecutors. Why exactly? And the tantalizing thing about Michael Cohen in the sentencing memo, officially it's going to be sentenced, I think, next Wednesday, but the sentencing memo should be revealing about what that man, who is a former personal attorney of the President of the United States, shared with investigators in the Russia case and also in the case in the Southern District here in New York, where he has admitted paying women who alleged that they had affairs with the man who is the President of the United States. So it's going to be a very newsy Friday in the legal world.
I think I speak for Democrats and Republicans when I say wrap it up.
Yeah.
Wrap this thing up.
May 2017, Brian.
Right.
It's been more than a year and a half.
Right. Over a 3-month period or a 4-month period when the president got the nomination.
Well, let's just get to the truth. Everybody wants the truth.
Right.
And whether it is through the Mueller investigation or Huber or Mr. Horowitz, who's the Inspector General, we need all the dots connected.
But I'm afraid that we'll have 3 separate truths. Although Huber, I'm not optimistic we'll get anything. Michael Horowitz might have a different conclusion than Robert Mueller, and then we're going to be sitting there debating the documents that we paid millions of dollars to research.
Well, then everybody would be skeptical. It's like, why'd we do that?
All right, let's talk about Tom Perez.
Why did we do that?
The DNC chairman, Tom Perez, he was speaking in Washington about the strategies for the Democratic Party, what they need to do in order to get more votes. And then he was talking about how you, the voter, you are influenced by Fox News and some other things, including what you hear on Sunday in church. Listen.
I had someone in northwestern Wisconsin tell me, you know what? For most of the people I know, their principal sources of information are Fox News, their NRA newsletter, and the pulpit on Sunday. And it should come as a surprise to no one that our message doesn't penetrate, because that person on the pulpit is saying, ignore everything else that this person has done and is doing. We have to focus on one issue of Roe versus Wade. And people buy it because that's their only source.
So there he is complaining about the fact that the voters are listening to Fox News, the NRA newsletter, and people there in the pulpit. That video was released on Twitter. I think on that same thread, one user said, well, my pastor's opinion has more weight than a politician's opinion. And somebody else wrote, frightened by the word of God or just a little worried by the competition, according to the Washington Times.
Isn't that a good companion piece with Senator Hirono saying a couple of days ago, the problem with Democrats is we're just too smart. We're not good at telling everyone how smart we are, or relaying a message which we idiots can understand.
Or the deplorable comment about middle America, or what they said about Walmart customers.
Well, you know, if that's a preview of 2020, I don't think that's going to work. Yeah. Just saying.
Go back to Madison Avenue. All right. Meanwhile, a Fox News alert. President Trump is expected to announce Nikki Haley's replacement at any moment. And
he's also apparently close to filling an opening at the Department of Justice at the top to replace our Attorney General, Jeff Sessions.
Peter Doocy is live at the White House with who is under consideration. Hey, Peter.
Ainsley, the president is apparently looking to replace an attorney general he knew really well, Jeff Sessions, with somebody he doesn't not know at all. That's William Barr, who has already been the Attorney General for President George H.W. Bush back in the early 90s, and he stands out among former AGs because he shares President Trump's opinion about firing FBI directors, saying that he likes James Comey, but that ultimately the president should get to pick who runs the Bureau. It is not clear if Barr has been offered that position yet, but White House officials have told us to be on the lookout for a tweet any minute now about a different opening. UN Ambassador Heather Nauert is set to become the president's pick to replace outgoing Nikki Haley. Nauert worked here at Fox before becoming spokesperson for Rex Tillerson and then Mike Pompeo. Her specialty at State has been explaining or defending the Trump administration's policies as opposed to shaping them. And it's not clear if an Ambassador Nauert would be serving in the cabinet level like Haley, but sources I've spoken to here say there are a lot of people at the White House who do not want this to be a cabinet level position anymore, following Haley's tenure where she sometimes broke with the president. Now, if Nauert and Barr both wind up being nominated, they will have to start preparing soon to become the first Trump nominees to face a Senate confirmation hearing since Brett Kavanaugh. Back to you.
And we know how that went. All right, Peter, thank you very much.
Thanks, Peter.
And, of course, we all know Heather Nauert. She worked on this program for many years. We all like her a lot, so we wish her the best. Next stop, confirmation.
And the thing that's great about Heather, it's 2 years in. So what she was able to do with Secretary of State Tillerson, who was shown the exit, and then in comes Mike Pompeo, clearly a better fit, was able to show that she was obviously able to show the president behind closed doors because of the access she got was impressive enough for her to be a leading candidate and now be the likely contender to be the next UN ambassador. Not a traditional way to go, but if you watch her in these press outings, when she's taking every question under the sun and answering with authority, and which she's already done in 2 years, I would, all these skeptics that seem to be lining up on the left about her, bring it on. When she goes in front of them for confirmation, she'll knock it out of the park like she has been for 2 years.
She's very bright. She's a good person. And we know Nikki Haley. She was governor of South Carolina, and she's stepping down. She said she's going to stay in that position until the end of the year. And then we'll find out, hopefully today, who that nominee is going to be. And it looks like it will be Heather Nauert.
And we do know after Heather will probably be Carly Shimkus, because Heather once had that job.
Oh, wow.
And Carly, you'll end
right.
up at the United Nations.
I guess the career trajectory might prove.
En route to the presidency.
All right, good morning, guys. And we begin with this. The search for missing Marines expanding off the coast of Japan. Rainstorms complicating rescue efforts after 2 American warplanes collided during a training exercise. 2 Marines have been recovered so far. One is in fair condition. The other is dead. Now on to a Fox News alert. Former Major League Baseball players Luis Valbuena and Jose Castillo killed in a car crash. The athletes traveling in Venezuela when their car hit a rock and swerved off the road. The driver, former infielder Carlos Rivera, survived the crash. Castillo played 5 seasons in the majors. Valbuena played 11 years, most recently with the Angels. The athletes were in Venezuela to play in a winter league. So sad. Senator Elizabeth Warren may be running for president in 2020, but her hometown newspaper is warning against it. The Boston Globe editorial board writing, quote, while Warren is an effective and impactful senator with an important voice nationally, she has become a divisive figure. A unifying voice is what the country needs now after the polarizing politics of Donald Trump. The Globe encouraged her to run in 2016. The board now says she missed her moment. And today marks 77 years since the surprising attack on Pearl Harbor. 2,403 service members and civilians killed in that horrific assault in Hawaii. Memorials will be held across the U.S. today, including a moment of silence at the Pearl Harbor Museum in Honolulu. American flags will be flown at half-staff until sundown. So, if you see a service member today, good day to say thank you, right?
Every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
December 7th, a day that will live in infamy, and still does. Thank you, Carly. All right.
All right, this caravan story sparking a new debate over birthright citizenship, a mother illegally entering the United States and having a baby on American soil. So what happens next?
Plus, on a different note, you know John Rich is a country megastar, and now he's joining the world of whiskey to help our heroes.
How can you be
that shot? I do it for the company. He's here live in studio. That was my beat, Steve.
Bring up the whiskey, Johnny.
Fox News Channel on Sirius XM. Your favorite shows on Channel 114. Plus, every story, every 15 minutes. Fox News headlines 24/7, Channel 115.
Within 24 hours of this caravan family illegally scaling the southern border, a 19-year-old Honduran mother gave birth on U.S. soil.
That's right. As the national debate over birthright citizenship escalates, what happens next to this family?
All right, let's bring in immigration attorney Linda Vega. First off, Linda, let's put birthright citizenship and that debate aside for a second. Just bring us through the process of what they will do now, because she's here illegally, the baby's born here.
Hi, good morning. Yes.
Morning.
What happens now is she will be processed either to determine whether she has a credible fear to remain in the United States for a political asylum claim, which is the only claim she has at this point. Now, it's discretionary with her deportation officer whether or not she's credible. If she's found not to be credible, she then goes before an immigration judge to determine whether she's credible to remain in the United States. But even if she's determined credible, that could take months or years until they possibly get to her case.
What if they say she's not credible? Does she have to go back to her country? What about her baby?
Well, if she's found not credible, then she has the option to argue that case before an immigration judge. And if the judge finds her not to be credible, she's deported at that point. Now, even though the baby's born on U.S. soil, it's a U.S. citizen, but the baby has to go back with her at that point.
Right.
Unless the baby becomes a ward of the state.
And, of course, this could take a very long time, could take years, in fact. But, Linda,
Yes.
according to the reporting by the Associated Press that we looked at yesterday, it said that she was happy. She felt that having a baby in the United States was a big reward for having made this long journey through Mexico from Honduras. But she also wanted to be reunited with her family in Columbus, Ohio. That is not a reason for asylum.
No, not at all. And that's a misconception a lot of these people have. They have a fear, but whether or not they can provide evidence for that fear, whether they're persecuted for a political group, social group, national origin, or religion, is very difficult for them because they come to the United States without any evidence at all. But because of the backlog in immigration court, they would be allowed to stay in the United States until their case is pending.
So she's got a plan, and this is the plan that's been executed over and over again. And when that child becomes, let's say, 14 or 15, he will have no problem coming to this country. If he's forced back to Central or South America, he'll have no problem getting back to this country because they'll say, oh, you're an American citizen, correct?
Correct, yes. And it won't be until he's 21 years old
21, okay.
where he can adjust his family. So it's a long way away, but nevertheless...
Through chain migration, he can bring his family and make...
Correct. Through chain migration, he can apply for his mother, his father, his brothers and sisters.
And
correct.
Of course,
that is correct.
Real briefly, if anybody doesn't, there are people who don't like this aspect of the immigration law. If you don't like it, you got to change the law because that's just the way it is right now.
Correct. That under immigration law, that is correct. You adjust your family if you're an American citizen or naturalized.
A lot of people think that birthright citizenship is not being interpreted correctly. Are you one of them?
Well, birthright citizenship, I mean, it's very broad under the 14th Amendment and the first clause, and even in the Immigration Act, if you're born on U.S. soil and subject to the jurisdiction. Subject to the jurisdiction may mean you're born in an embassy, you're born on a military base.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this again. Meanwhile, coming up next,
John Rich. As Americans say their final goodbyes to President George H.W. Bush, our next guest shares his own memory of the time that he sent the late president a very special birthday wish and the response that he got from 41. Take a listen.
Mr. President, this is John Rich wishing you a very happy 85th birthday. For the good Lord and the man.
John, this is George Bush. I'm very touched by it. I love your music, and I love this song particularly. So you're guaranteeing me a happy 85th birthday.
Nice.
So cool.
We know it happened because it was on television. Joining us right now to tell us is one half of the legendary country music duo, Big and Rich. It's Rich.
Good morning, fellas and ladies. Yeah, that was awesome.
Tell us about it. Tell us the backstory.
And what that song means.
Well, so the song is a song I wrote about my granddad, who was a World War II vet. He had 6 Purple Hearts. He was what they called a tunnel rat, little guy. They'd send him into the caves, you know. And so I wrote a song about him, but then knowing that President Bush was also World War II and it was his 85th birthday, I missed singing it to him live, so I left it on his answering machine, and then he called me back, and I played phone tag and missed him, but I'm kind of glad I missed it because now I have it. You know what I mean?
Tape.
Otherwise, I'd be telling, you're not going to believe George Bush. No, he didn't. But no, we have that, and you know, I just think it's the song honors World War II vets, the greatest generation.
Yeah.
It says if it wasn't for the greatest generation, then the ones still fighting for our nation, because of that, I've never had to kill for my way of life.
Yeah.
And when you walk into your house, to your left is your grandfather's uniform, right?
That's right. His World War II uniform's there. My other granddaddy fought in Germany, so you know, those guys literally saved the world. And now we got guys and girls out there fighting for the American dream. And we have a lot of respect for them in country music, and we write songs about them.
Why do you do so much for the troops?
Because without them, the American dream is dead. You know, I think we can talk about all the rights that we have, but the overarching thing is the American dream. You got the right in this country to go for it. And you guys are following your American dream. I'm following mine. Everybody out there watching has a shot. Doesn't mean you're going to get it, but at least you've got a shot to go for it.
And speaking of you got a shot, let's talk a little bit about this.
Wow, we brought a few extra bottles for you guys.
Okay, this is your whiskey. It's
it is.
Redneck Riviera, named. What came first, the bourbon or the joint you've got down on Broadway in Nashville?
Well, so Redneck Riviera downtown in Nashville was being built, and I said, I've always been a Crown Royal drinker.
You have been.
Which is Canadian.
You had that
Canadian blend. I do. Canadian blended whiskey, and I said, well, that's Canadian blended. Where's the American blended? And nobody really had anything called that, so I went to work on this in 17. It's now in 41 states. We give 10% of every bottle back to these guys, the Folds of Honor, which I know y'all support as well. We just wrote a check on behalf of Redneck Riviera Whiskey that covered 37 college grants with Folds of Honor.
Wow, that's fantastic. And I was there for the launch of this. It really went into, a lot went into the making of this.
It did, yeah.
You're not just winging it.
No, and I don't endorse it. I own it. So, like, the glass is made in America. The cork is made in America. I mean, it's 100% American. It's the smoothest stuff out there, and I give back the Folds, which to me is the best of both worlds. It's just redneckriviera.com. You go to that, and there's a store locator. You put your zip code in. Boom. 41 states in 11 months. It's incredible.
I love the Get Down kit. And it's not
the Get Down kit.
It's G-I-T.
Yeah. So that's a bottle of Redneck. That's a bottle of Redneck and 2 bags of jerky just for Christmas. This is at Costco. This is at Albertsons. Safeway. This is at all Winn-Dixie. This is all the grocery stores around America.
You know, and we've all been involved with Folds of Honor. And when you meet those college students, and you know you're helping them go to college.
Yeah.
Because they have lost one of their loved ones, one of their parents, or their parents are severely injured. How does that make you feel?
I met a girl yesterday. I didn't even know she was going to be there, who is now going to UCF, Central Florida, on a scholarship that was paid for by Redneck Riviera. I mean, they didn't tell me she was coming, and I just almost froze, and just the chills went up your arm. And you know, you hear about all these scholarships that they do, but when you meet somebody who's actually going through college through Folds of Honor, it's powerful.
It's not just a name, it's a person.
It's a person.
Look at the lives you've changed.
You should have seen her eyes when I'm talking to her, and her mother's standing there, you know, and I said, to think that Redneck Riviera is putting you through college, I said, how old are you? She said 22. I said, thank God you can drink some of this.
You know what, John? I wonder if it's the girl that was on our sofa recently, where the producers were telling us, yes, she had a dream to be an actress. She's now going to school in Central Florida. So you paid for her to go to school.
That's all.
She lost her dad.
That's right.
She loves her dad, was talking all about him, and now she is one of the Disney characters. So she's fulfilling her dream.
Yes, so Redneck Riviera Whiskey is putting her through college through Folds of Honor.
Good.
It's so awesome. So I would say if you're out there in America and you want to go buy some of this, it's everywhere.
Right. You can also get your boots. There's a lot of stuff that he has. You are a conglomerate, a walking corporation.
Well, it's the American dream. Like I said, I'm an entrepreneur, and you asked about our vets and active duty. That's what they fight to preserve.
Indeed. If you'd like more information about Folds of Honor, go to foldsofhonor.org. John Rich, always
Thank you,
a pleasure.
guys. Appreciate it.
And if you're on...
That's for you.
Yeah,
we've never seen that man before.
Who is that guy?
He's not even full time.
All right,
and now he's gone. All right, thanks, John. Great to see you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thank
His name's John too.
Hey.
Yeah.
He's not rich.
All right, a major Hollywood blockbuster, While You Were Sleeping. Why Kevin Hart just stepped down as the Oscars host 2 days after he said yes to taking the job.
And did the arrest of a Chinese tech exec tank the stock market yesterday and ignite a new trade feud? We're live with new details coming up.
We are back with a Fox News alert. The U.S.-China trade feud now threatening Canada.
A top Chinese executive is due in court later today after getting arrested at an airport in Canada.
All right, her name is Susan Lee, and she has to make sense of all this. Susan,
From Fox Business.
Yeah, from Fox Business. So, Susan, here we have a situation where we have a 90-day window to work out a trade truce with China.
Right.
At the same time, on Sunday, this arrest happens. Why should we care?
Well, it's a big deal. Did you see the market reaction yesterday? The Dow dropped 700 points because everyone's scared about what happens to this 90-day trade truce. So this is a big deal, and also it's a diplomatic big deal as well because it throws into question, yes, a trade deal, but let me explain to you what Huawei is. People are thinking, what is this company? It's one of China's largest technology companies. I would equate it to a Microsoft or a Dell, steady stream of income, doesn't make a lot of noise, not that flashy. Third largest mobile phone maker in the world. So the chief financial officer, she's the CFO of the company, but more importantly, she's the daughter of the founder of the company. And that's a big deal in China. Her name is Meng Wanzhou. She was arrested Saturday in Vancouver while she was changing planes. This was reportedly directed by the U.S. Justice Department, who wanted to have Meng extradited to the U.S. on charges that may relate to breaking Iran sanctions. According to the New York Times, this is unauthorized sales of U.S. technology to Iran. Now, there's a bail hearing set for today at 1 p.m. Eastern Time in Vancouver. But this has really thrown that U.S.-China trade truce into question. And a sharp rebuke from China against this arrest, as you can imagine. Very short statement as well. They were questioning whether or not you can just arrest somebody without any distinct charges. So markets reacted badly to this. We were down 700 points before the dramatic final hour rally because the Fed may not be hiking interest rates as much next year. But this throws into questions also who knew what when. And the National Security Advisor, John Bolton, told NPR News that the Justice Department told him in advance that they were going to make this arrest. We did have Peter Navarro, the trade advisor, last night telling us that no one knew, apparently, before this arrest.
The president didn't know.
Especially the president definitely did not know about this before the G20 dinner or even in advance. But we did hear from the Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, who says that he was given a few days heads up, and this is a Justice Department matter, not diplomatic.
Okay, so what did this company do wrong? Is this one of the outfits that's stealing American technology, or the fact that they were selling things to Iran?
Okay, well, I think in this particular case, there are questions whether or not they were shifting U.S. technology to Iran. Again, this is unconfirmed. This is coming from the New York Times. But we know Huawei has been in focus for many years, whether it's a conduit for Chinese spying, because their main business, selling mobile phones, which, by the way, is not allowed anymore on U.S. defense bases, but also they're a telecommunications equipment maker. So they install telecom equipment for a lot of the big phone companies.
Susan, Congressman Jim Banks of Indiana says this is a state-directed entity actively undermining America's national interest. China's trying to cheat its way to global dominance, and we cannot let it happen. And President Trump has basically said when he took over, be aggressive. This is not going to stand anymore.
Yeah.
He was aggressive in trade, but they're moving on two separate paths.
A very good point.
Right?
Exactly. So one hand, you're trying to sign a trade truce or a trade deal. On the other hand, you're trying to get tough with people that you think are undermining national security. That includes a Chinese company called Huawei.
And China's reaction?
As I said, a very sharp, short rebuke. Nothing I would say on the diplomatic front that I would say says anything about possibly questioning this China trade truce. But they talked about human rights and humans having rights in court cases.
That's fascinating for them to talk about human rights.
That's what a lot of people say.
This definitely affects Americans because of the stock market, and we saw what has happened as a result. But is there any other? Is our information being shared now with Iran through this company?
We don't know anything specific. I don't want to make any guesses on that, but that's something obviously to be delved into.
Maybe we'll hear about it at the arraignment. All right, Susan, thank you very much.
How do you think the market will react real quick, Susan?
I think we're pricing a small recovery today. Global stock markets have come back a little bit.
Because of interest rates.
Yes, that's all because of interest rates.
All right, we're going to hold you to that. We're taping this segment.
All right. Meanwhile, great interest in the headlines, and Carly's got those right now.
That's right. Good morning to you and everyone at home. If you are just waking up, Kevin Hart's gig as Oscars host is over 2 days after taking the job. The comedian bowing out overnight after his controversial tweets about gay people resurfaced. Hart says the Academy gave him two options: apologize or step down. Hart tweeting in part, quote, "I'm sorry that I hurt people. I am evolving and want to continue to do so. My goal is to bring people together, not tear us apart." 9 new cases of E. coli linked to romaine lettuce just announced. The CDC renewing its warning not to eat romaine if it comes from northern or central California, or if the source is unknown. At least 52 people in 15 states have gotten sick, most of the cases reportedly in New Jersey and California. And a deputy teams up with a Good Samaritan to rescue a man trapped inside a burning truck. Watch this.
Is the dash holding your leg in? Okay. Man, please help me.
Wow, the Texas deputy helping free the man's leg stuck under the dashboard. Bystanders pulling him to safety. The driver was airlifted to the hospital with serious injuries. And this may be the shot of the morning. Santa Claus gets down on one knee to thank a veteran for his service. He says it's important to recognize heroes like 93-year-old Bob Smiley.
We owe a debt of gratitude to men like this that have made such a life-changing decision to give up themselves, be willing to lay down their life even for other people.
That is a very good Santa Claus right there. He met the World War II veteran at a mall in Delaware. We can bet Bob Smiley is absolutely on the nice list this year. And those are your headlines.
The greatest generation.
That was cool of Santa.
Isn't that neat?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Terrific.
All right, turning now to some extreme weather. A powerful winter storm has millions in its path. Heavy rain and intense flooding pounding Southern California.
Meanwhile, a Southwest Airlines jet skidded off a wet runway at Hollywood's Burbank Airport. Thankfully, nobody was hurt. Look at that.
Janice Dean has the forecast as the storm moves east. Hey, Janice.
Hello. Well, let's talk about the weather, and then I'm going to introduce you to some of my friends. Let's go to the maps first. We have that potential winter storm that's going to affect areas across the south, starting in the southwest, moving across the southern plains, the central U.S. This is going to be a big one, not only for heavy rain and flooding across Texas and Louisiana, but we're going to see the potential for ice. And depending on where that 32-degree line is, that freezing line, that's where we're going to see the difference between the freezing rain and the sleet and the snow. So just keep that in mind. We're going to see some travel delays. Even if the storm is not impacting you, it's going to affect much of the country. So we will be keeping you up to date throughout the day today and this weekend. All right, come over here. We've got a Sweet 16 over here. Wave, my love. Happy Sweet 16. We got Mississippi and New York here. Mississippi, any birthdays? North Carolina, birthdays? 50, girlfriend. Any anniversaries? All right, and we love Fox and Friends. Where's your anniversary? Right over here?
30 years.
Yay, 30 years. What's the secret?
I don't know. Just put God first.
Oh, God first. I love. And Fox and Friends, right?
That's right.
All right. Keeping marriage happy across the country. All right, back inside, everybody.
Great.
Yay!
Very nice.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
It's hard for Janice to outdo yesterday. If you missed it, there was a live proposal in the 8 o'clock hour.
I know.
Those weren't actors. Those were real people, right?
They were. Oh. Congratulations.
Meanwhile, Elizabeth Warren took a DNA test to prove she's Native American, but those results may be coming back to haunt her. Ed Henry here to explain.
Plus, one Fox and Friends viewer got the surprise of a lifetime, a video call from Steve.
Yep.
How would you like to make a trip to New York City because you're one of the winners in our contest?
It would be such an honor and incredible. I would love it.
Well, that lucky winner is here, and she is making her happy recipe inspired by Steve's cookbook. Coming up.
She's making a happy cake. Senator Elizabeth Warren took a DNA test to prove she's in part Native American, and she released those results back in October.
But those results might be coming back to haunt her.
Fox News chief national correspondent Ed Henry with why her hometown paper says she shouldn't run for president?
Yeah, this is unbelievable. Remember, the Boston Globe did a story, I think, at the beginning of September. Big investigation, and they said ethnicity was not a factor when she joined the faculty at Harvard Law School, and she did not use her Native American heritage in order to get that post, even though they got panned because a lot of people said, wait a second, there's all kinds of evidence that it seemed like she did use it. Well, then fast forward, she did the DNA test, I believe in October, right before the midterms, got panned by Democrats. Why are you taking the focus off the midterms to focus on the DNA?
Because she was only a tiny fraction.
And it turned out to be a fraction, and there are people saying, hey, you know, this is 6-10 generations ago. It's not even clear you have very much heritage at all. So the Boston Globe now, which had urged her to run for president previously, is flipping. Here's what they said. They say, while Warren is an effective and impactful senator with an important voice nationally, she has become a divisive figure. A unifying voice is what the country needs now after the polarizing politics of Donald Trump. So how ironic, because Donald Trump branded her as Pocahontas. She got upset about that, understandably so, tried to prove him wrong, and then it turns out the DNA test results blew up in her face. So she tried to play the president's game, blew up in her face. Now even her hometown paper, which wanted her to run, is saying, don't run.
And in fact, according to the New York Times, she's thinking about perhaps apologizing. We'll keep you posted on that.
So she's playing defense.
I know it. Meanwhile, Bernie Sanders was on with Stephen Colbert last night and said this.
A few years ago, when we said that health care is a right, not a privilege, I was told I'm crazy, it's extreme. 70% of the American people in the last polls that I've seen now support Medicare for all. Raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour, widely supported. Comprehensive immigration reform, making sure that we protect a woman's right to choose.
It sounds like he's running, doesn't it?
It sounds like he's running, but you know what? He's also right about what he is saying. You could disagree about his policies, but when he says there, they called me crazy in 2016, I was there. I was covering him and Hillary Clinton, and he and Hillary Clinton were going at it, and Hillary Clinton and much of the media were laughing at him, saying, this guy's nuts. You can't pay for any of this stuff. He wants Medicare for all. And you know what? I saw the crowds. His crowds were way bigger than Hillary Clinton because he fired people. When you say you're going to give him free stuff, it's great.
But he still can't pay for it.
You still can't pay for it, number one. Number two, here's the big point. He was seen as crazy in 2016. Now, it's not crazy. It's the mainstream of the Democratic Party, Ocasio-Cortez and all the rest who are joining the new Congress. And all of the candidates, by the way, it was only one guy out on the left all by his lonesome. Now you're going to have 17, 18 leftists running because that's the center of the party.
There was a poll that was recently released saying, who do you want to run? Who do you want to see on the Democratic ticket? And it was Biden #1, and he was #2.
Because there's an establishment guy there at the top, then the socialist Democrat, and then there's going to be a whole bunch of people mimicking Bernie Sanders. Why? Because that's where the energy is of the Democratic Party. They don't want to admit it, but I think it's unlikely he'd win.
Put it this way, they're younger. He's 74 years old, so they took his message and they came back with a, with a younger person.
And remember what Donald Trump said in 2016. People laughed at him about this as well. That there are going to be some Bernie people, he said, who vote for me in the general election. I think he was right because there are some who were not necessarily socialists, but they were just anti-establishment. They didn't like Hillary Clinton, and they didn't vote for her in the general election. That may have helped him as well on the trade message and the pro-worker message.
All right, Ed Henry with the Political Roundup. Sir, thank you very much.
See you this weekend.
All right. Yeah, 8 hours of Ed Henry.
Well, we want you to come. Will you call in?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I can't really hear you from here. Straight ahead. And one Fox and Friends viewer got the surprise of a lifetime, a video call from Steve Doocy.
Why not?
How would you like to make a trip to New York City because you're one of the winners at our contest?
It would be such an honor and incredible. I would love it.
That lucky winner is here. She's making her happy recipe inspired by Steve Doocy.
And she brought her mom.
It was. All right, one Fox and Friends viewer got the surprise of a lifetime, a video call from Steve Doocy himself, and that's not all.
Christina?
Hi, Steve.
How would you like to make a trip to New York City because you're one of the winners in our contest?
No kidding.
No kidding. You heard that right. She's one of the 3 lucky winners of the Dining with Doocy contest based on the Happy Cookbook.
Christina Montero and her mom, Linda Loomis, they are both here all the way from Florida to share their happy recipe that was inspired by Steve's cookbook, The Happy Cookbook. It's a great gift for Christmas. Tell us about your story. Congratulations. And what'd you think when Steve called you?
Thank you so much. It was a surprise of a lifetime. I knew that you'd have tons of submissions just because it's a nationally watched show that
we got thousands.
And everyone loves your cookbook.
Well, thank you very much. So the whole idea of the contest was write to us and tell us the recipes that make you happy. This cake recipe makes you happy. Why?
Because this is the cake that I make every year in March to celebrate my citizenship as an American.
Because you were adopted by this woman when you were 3 days old. Tell us your story about that.
When I was 3 days old, my mom and my father adopted me from Costa Rica. And it's such a special memory for me. But what really means the most to me is that my mom helped me become an American citizen. She got me through the naturalization process, and I get to enjoy the blessings of this great country.
And you got a free trip, right, Mom? There you go. It's all paid off in the end. And what did you decide to make?
So this is a tres leches cake, which is a Costa Rican recipe.
Three milks.
3 milks. That's right. You've got your Spanish down, Steve.
See.
So what are the 3 milks?
So the 3 milks are evaporated, condensed, and heavy whipping cream.
Okay.
And so
you start with a white cake.
A white cake.
And
we
then
crumble it.
Okay.
So that it can absorb all these 3 milks. Steve, do you want to maybe
Linda,
combine the milks
at all
for
in the
us?
kitchen?
She does this. This is her recipe.
Okay, so you add all of these, and by the way, the recipe will be at foxandfriends.com.
Absolutely.
You do this.
It's not a guarded secret.
And then you marinate it for
8 to 12 hours.
Well, then how do you? And then what do you do with the crumbs?
So the crumbs will congeal with all the liquid, and it makes. And then I decorate it to make it Americana
through the
style.
magic of television.
That's beautiful.
And that it makes you so happy because that is the American flag.
It's Old Glory on a plate.
Mom, I'm curious. I want to hear your story about how you found Christina. How did that come to be?
It was a miracle. It was a miracle.
Divine intervention.
Divine intervention. That's what we
wonderful.
call
All right. And we're going to have a
little
bite.
Taste it, some rum or some liquor, and make it for an adult party.
We've got some whiskey from John Rich upstairs.
That's right.
Well, listen, because